Tensions rise during school board and planning board meetings. The final budget has been posted for review and a busy week ahead for PRHS athletics. All that and more coming up on this weekend's edition of This Week in Plymouth. Hello and welcome to another edition of This Week in Plymouth. I'm your host, Dan Salzer. On Tuesday, January 17th, both the Pemmy-Baker Regional School Board and the Plymouth Select Board held special meetings. The Select Board held a budget work session to go over the final details of the draft budget before it goes to a public hearing on Monday, January 23rd.
Are there any new changes since the last time we looked at this that are worth highlighting, or are we pretty much where we're at?
Well, I think that at one point we had discussed the highway department, and we had, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we had $60,000 in a line to purchase a blower. Joe has decided that that blower is not the priority.
That we met with all of the departments back on November 21st and December 19th. And we made changes as we moved through those budgets on both of those evenings. So this year, some of the differences are, and Ann and I met this morning to kind of make sure we had dotted the I's and crossed the T's, is that we're 52 weeks this year versus 53 weeks. There's a 2.5% increase, wage increase across the board. There's a 5% proposed health trust insurance increase, which would take place in the July renewal. On the warrant, we have warrant articles for a new Plymouth PD officer and a new Plymouth PD dispatcher. We have, for the Plymouth Fire Department, a new firefighter. The nonprofits have been reduced or kept equal. There's about a $11,000 reduction in what we'll be providing for assistance to them. And probably two of the biggest things that have been helpful over the last few weeks is we finally have gotten the highway department to full staff as of last Monday. We have totally a new staff on board, which are doing a great job for coming on within the last 30 to 45 days. And with regards to the ambulance in the budget, as I stated at the last board meeting, I've been meeting with Chief Morrison and Deputy Chief Pierce and their admin staff, and really looking at the budget so we can accurately reflect the ambulance budget in next year's process, which you will see a significant difference. As you'll see in this year's budget, it's $154,796. The actual expenses for the ambulance is $1,288,000. So we need to better reflect those associated costs, so when we're working with our contract towns, they fully understand what the cost of running an ambulance service is.
Mm-hmm. If last year's budget is $11,320,000, mm-hmm. and this year we've got a proposed budget of $12,544,000. That's a 1.2-ish million dollar increase.
A lot of those items are from the CIP.
Want to know how we got to the 253?
Yeah, how does 1.2 million turn into 253?
496 divided into 1.2, right?
Mm.
Every $496,000 equals $1.
Right.
Then
So you're almost, yeah,
you divide.
$2.50.
So that is a direct equation. There's nothing else involved in it.
No.
Okay.
The final proposed budget and capital improvement program have been posted on the town website for the townspeople to review ahead of Monday night's public meeting. The Pemmy-Baker School Board was also in a discussion for their budget for next school year, as they voted to schedule a special meeting after some last-minute concerns came up about the budget at their public hearing held on January 3rd.
It's important that you look at giving us a percentage you're comfortable with, and then maybe we have some suggestions other than the teaching programs, or the suggestions out of some of the lower numbers like the athletic uniforms or other things. I think we can do without some other things other than moving the athletic cycle or eliminating some programs. So it's just a discussion that I think you need to have. I think you need to be pretty unanimous probably in moving forward to the deliberative session. I think it would be helpful to be on the same page. We can answer any questions, or if you want to change anything, I think that's up to you at this point to move forward with the discussion. But we're happy to do whatever.
Our job as a board is to not get into the weeds of the decision-making at the administrative level. So I'd feel more comfortable as a board if we came up with a number that we're happy with, that we can live with percentage-wise, and then let them do the cutting that they feel, if there is any cutting they can do, that they feel might be appropriate.
I find it hard. I understand the budget's up. If it was up to me, I'd cut it 20% and let them deal with it. But I think we should do what we can for the kids, give them as many opportunities as they can get.
I'm in a real conundrum here. I've been on the board a long time, and we've always put the students first. If we could possibly do it, we did it. But I also spend $6 a dozen on eggs. And I really have a conundrum raising the budget more than the 3% we said we would. So I don't know if I'm a fence sitter or what, but I am torn. I can see both sides of the story, and there's no easy answer. We're here to provide for the kids. There's no question about it. But we also are stewards of the budget, and, 4.5% is 4.5%.
I would move that the administration rework the budget to come in no higher than 3.5%.
I can do that.
Well, hold on.
All right, I would second that.
So you want to discuss it? What is that number?
So that would mean decreasing the proposed budget by $167,800.
Okay, so Peter?
Yes.
Phil?
Yes.
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Maureen? Paul?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yeah, she said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you say yes? Oh, I can't hear.
It's on mute.
I have my
Okay.
microphone on, sorry.
That's okay.
This past Thursday, the Plymouth Planning Board held and hosted their second round of public hearings for the 2023 zoning amendments. The first big discussion was about the amendment to measuring the maximum height of buildings on Main Street, with concerns being that one side of the street could benefit more than the other.
I think one of the things that we should think about is some of the existing buildings that are at 35 or bigger already on Main Street, and they kind of innocuous and ominous, they're just there. I think it's possibly the architectural character of any new buildings that would be 35, and that would be the term as far as occupied level or the roof level, which is something you need to consider.
I think you have to define Main Street a little better than what you have here.
Okay.
Where does it start and where does it stop? Because this could go all the way to Campton, or it could go all the way to Ashland.
Well, this is specifically in the village. I believe it's specifically in the village.
Was the intent to reduce the height on one side of Main Street and increase the height on the other? Or should there be a clarifying edit to say, the maximum will be the greater of the average grade or 35 feet?
The intention was to provide uniformity on both sides of the street, meaning that you could be 35 feet from street level to roof line along Main Street.
Move this amendment forward. Are we ready for a vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Opposed? Did you vote?
I vote aye. Abstentions?
4 to 3.
I think it's 4 to 3. Joseph, is that what you?
Yes, so
You want to do it by hand?
Should we do a roll vote?
Sure.
Okay. Mike?
Nay.
Nay.
Neil?
Aye.
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 Nay.
4-3.
The major topic at the public hearing was the amendment to off-site parking to the ordinance of 300 feet.
The key to this is the safe design of the sidewalks or the ways getting to those areas. So the safe and reasonable, I believe, works and would be an effective criteria for off-site parking.
Is this allowing people, like if they're, for example, I have Thai Smile and there's 4 apartments right above it. Their parking is off-site across the bridge. Is that going to allow them to have free-range parking on this side of the bridge?
Currently, the parking, we could not prohibit that setup currently because the off-site parking is actually in a different town.
Yeah.
If you were proposing off-site parking,
No, I'm just worried about my business because we have limited parking. It's pretty what would you say, not really paid attention to, especially the 30-minute side of the main street.
Right.
We see very little attention paid to it. College kids parking for 1 to 2 classes at a time. It's hard to being in the convenience business and having no place for your customers to park.
And just with something like this that could potentially have a big effect, it might not, like I said, I'm not going to get into assumptions, but with zoning that could affect housing, I ask that we table this one until we hear if, the planner has something, if this goes in, fits in line with, if there's a better way to go about it with housing. So
I think the board should give this current proposed amendment some serious thought. I think it's an idea that has unintended consequences when you look at it. I understand zoning. I believe in zoning. I think zoning is a good thing. It prevents negative externalities. It prevents things happening next to you which you didn't anticipate that diminish the value of your property. And I think the amendment would do that.
This particular amendment was introduced late in this planning board session. It's still within the rules, totally allowed when it was introduced, but to introduce one of the hottest topic areas late in your season of deliberations and then bring it kind of fast into a series of hearings, I think's a little bit ill-advised. I've watched a couple of the sessions. I've seen some of the debates. Certainly, Mr. Kent raises some very good concerns. This might still be a great idea. I would strongly encourage this group to maybe let it bake in the oven a little bit longer.
I'll offer a motion that we table Article 7, that's 12. 12. Section 1204.3.3.d, special exception criteria for off-site parking.
I'll second it.
I wanted to read the...
A motion and a second to table the off-site parking special exception. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. It will be tabled and hopefully lead to some really good discussions for the next round.
The last major item during the planning board meeting was a continuation of a public hearing from Jeff Hiltz with complaints from the public.
This gentleman, Mr. Hiltz, is supposed to be the developer of this entire area. It just seems like we are chasing our tails in a circle up there as residents. It is turning into a circus. And Mr. Hiltz decides at the very last minute, as he had mentioned today, to have it continued. He has had ample time to present the boards with the necessary information.
Did not find my sewer tie-ins. I did, however, have Mr. Hiltz come to the property yesterday, give my builder a helping hand, trying to find some of these things, and still was not able to find them. Still was not able to find electrical conduits. I had NHEC come out 3 times, and today we finally found everything. I'm not saying that Mr. Hiltz is 100% at fault here now, and it's because this has been going on so long that the planning board, the selectmen, whoever should have been making sure that these things were accomplished when they were being done. And if they weren't, saying, look, we need to put a stop to this immediately and protect the residents and the people that are buying up there.
And so this board, and I don't think anyone who's sitting here was on that board when that happened.
I'm sure it wasn't.
So that process it precedes all of us. But there was a site plan, and now as the town is going forward with trying to accept the roads up there as a public town road, that's when, okay, the as-built, or what's actually existing there, doesn't match what we had approved as a board in 21 years ago. So we're trying to reconcile that as a board. That's the role that this board has.
Moving on to the world of sports, the Kearsarge Plymouth Cats held a game against Belmont Guilford in boys hockey, which ended up being a tough loss for the Cats, falling 4-0. Be sure to watch a replay in the entirety of the game on demand on our YouTube channel or throughout the week on channel 1302. Bobcats boys and girls basketball were both scheduled to play Co-Brown Northwood Academy last night. However, with the winter storm and cancellation of school, the games were postponed. The makeup date has been set for Monday, February 6th, with the boys traveling to Northwood and the girls playing here at home. Here are the announcements for next week. Some important news. As we mentioned before, the Select Board will be hosting 3 public hearings on Monday, January 23rd in regards to the fiscal year budget. The public is strongly encouraged to attend in person or by joining via Zoom to ask questions. Those of you watching on our YouTube stream will not be able to ask questions or comment, so please plan ahead. Full details of each hearing and the final proposed budget and capital improvement program can be found on the front page of the town website at www.plymouth-nh.org. The Water and Sewer Commissioners will be meeting on Tuesday the 24th at 5 p.m. in the conference room at the office on Old North Main Street. We've got a lot of games coming up for you for Bobcat Country this week. We kick off our coverage with boys basketball on Tuesday at 6:30. On Wednesday, both unified basketball at 3 and wrestling at 6 will be live on air. And for the first time, hopefully this season, ski jumping on the 26th at 6 p.m. at the high school. That will do it for this week's edition of This Week in Plymouth. We thank you always for tuning in. For our executive producer and Jonathan Picard, I'm Dan Salzer. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next weekend for another edition of This Week in Plymouth.